All right, folks, it is Thursday, September 25th, 2025, and we're going to be breaking down the XRP ETF Rally. Now, I titled the episode on a day when the market's coming down because we need to understand the decisive moment that we're at on the short-term targets that we have for XRP and the rest of the market, with an understanding that the consolidation period is ending. The big question that remains, are we going to get one more liquidity swipe down to the $250, $2.50 range before we go up to a new all-time high? Or will this new low that we've established at 270 hold? And this is a new low that we've established since our June all-time high of $3.66. We have triple tapped this level of about 270. We went to 267, 268 on some exchanges earlier this week. And so what we're watching right now is just to see, black swan us, government shutdown, World War III events taking place, and then President Trump brings back the tariffs. That's right, folks. President Trump, over the last 60 minutes, he's announced 100% tariffs on pharmaceuticals, 50% tariff on kitchen cabinets and bathroom vanities and associated products, 30% tariff on upholstered furniture, 25% tariff on heavy trucks, and says that he would cut interest rates down to 2%. Jerome Powell's incompetent, reiterating that point. So this is how we position ourselves, is that we know where the fib levels are at. I don't break down the TA too in depth. I just want to have a simple enough understanding that we can position ourselves ready to buy the lows, ready to sell the highs. That's how we make our money. And especially on assets that we're looking to hold over the long term, the difference, of a few cents really doesn't matter too much. But at the current levels, we're getting such dramatic price swings on XRP. And so it's quite a different game trying to navigate and dollar cost average into XRP at these levels, just because it could be a 10, 20, 30, even up to 50 cents or $1 difference at this point, with just how volatile and the range that XRP has been consolidating in between. Once again, $3.66 is our official all-time high that we hit back in June. We've been consolidating since, triple tapping this level of $2.70. So the question is, are we going to get black swan? Are we going to get a government shutdown? Are we going to get the trade war coming back on? Are we going to get the tariffs getting slapped on here? What's it going to, are we going to get World War III? And I'm not here to fearmonger, right? I'm just here to show you what the levels are on the chart and where we could potentially go to next before we inevitably get our XRP ETF rally, as I titled tonight's episode. No clickbait, just delivering the data, the facts, and the analysis that matters most. If you appreciate what we're doing, please help us out by liking our content, smashing it, tapping it, whatever you're into, and sharing it out far and wide for us. We greatly appreciate that. Let's get right on into it, guys. I want to provide a quick market update, explain the XRP ETF rally so everybody can understand it. Yes, it's going to be another buy the rumor, sell the news event, just like we warned about with the Fed rate cuts. That's right. That's why you stay tapped in over here, because we were one of the few people that was warning about that buy the rumor, sell the news on the rate cuts. And that's exactly what took place. Not only was it buy the rumor, sell the news, it was buy the rumor, get sacrificed during the largest liquidation event of 2025. Now, one thing that hasn't been really troubled lately has been silver. Let's take a moment to pay our respects. I love my silver. And take a look at this one, folks. We are above $45 per ounce. This is the first time we've been at this level since, 2011, when we went up to 45, 50 bucks. Since the 1980 highs of this level, right? This is a range that silver has gone to a couple times now, up towards 50 bucks per ounce. And we're going to see if we can break through this time. Gold already well into price discovery and consolidating right now, cooling off a little bit, giving an opportunity for silver to run up to $45 per ounce. All of my silver has been bought under $30 per ounce, and I thought that I was early, right? Just like I thought I was early on XRP at 30, 40 cents. Some of you guys got in XRP before me, right? I'm curious, how low did anybody in the chat get in on silver? I know that we got some people that got in at single digits. I'm sure that there's a few people in the chat. But we're talking about silver here. What was the lowest price you were ever able to pick it up per ounce? I'm curious to hear from you guys in the chat below. I am going to take this moment to recognize our new channel partner, which is iTrust Capital. The reason why I was so excited to get them tapped in as a community resource is because they have the IRA crypto accounts for those of you that have, the traditional Roth SEP IRA. You can tap in and invest in crypto using their platform. And they've also rolled out this premium custody account as well, offering institutional custody, award-winning US-based support, low cost, no monthly fees. And they're talking about a 1% transaction fee on your trades over there. Institutional custody, love to see it. iTrust Capital. And the thing I mentioned here is that they are also offering precious metals as well. That's right. And let me refresh this up here on the IRA. For your IRAs, you can get exposure to the precious metals, $75 gold transaction fee, and $3.25 silver transaction fee over spot per ounce. Okay? So they got it all covered there for your IRAs, whether it be precious metals, crypto, and now with this premium custody account too, you can get access to many cryptos over there on their platform. And I'm very excited just to have them tapped in as a community resource. And so a huge shout out to iTrust Capital for supporting the channel and for allowing us. And by the way, when you use my promo code Rector9, that's all caps, Rector9, when you use that promo code, you'll get the additional $100 funding bonus when you sign up using my link and my promo code down below. Okay. So this is what we've been talking about. Defensive measures, precious metals performing 3 times as good as the stock market. That's right. Gold performing 3 times better than the S&P 500 this year. Silver finally breaking out. And then on the offensive side, we've been going heavy into crypto. Now, as I title this episode, XRP ETF Rally, you've seen BlackRock. And we're starting to see the veils being lifted. Money market fund, that's the Build fund, the money market fund by BlackRock, along with the money market fund from Van Eck, partnership with Securitize to bring these tokenized money market funds to the XRP ledger. Full transferability to ROUSD. So the veil is being lifted, and this is the grand rollout. This is the grand rollout, in my opinion, of the BlackRock Spot ETF and the real partnership between not only BlackRock, but the top Wall Street and financial institutions in the world, especially the ones here in America that have been, for whatever reason, reserved on announcing their partnership with Ripple, whether that be an NDA, whether that be just waiting for the lawsuit to end, or just now they feel safer with the Clarity Act about to get passed. And so all of these institutions are figuring out their plan. The best institutions were working on this with Ripple and others 5-10 years ago. But now your opportunity to front run the institutions is leaving. It's ending. As the spot ETFs go live for XRP, it's over. Your opportunity to front run institutions ends. We need to be very clear about that, what that means. See, you are still front running institutions at this level because not everybody can get exposure to XRP and these other assets. For some of these funds, pension funds, etc., 401k, unlock, they're waiting for the ETFs to get exposure. And so they are going to wait for the XRP spot ETFs to go live. Then they will buy the ETF. They will put the ETF on their balance sheet. And it's going to be offered up from BlackRock and others. Okay, so the window of opportunity to front run the institutions has already been closing. Because some institutions were acquiring XRP. We have pre-allocation contracts signed, sealed, and documented going back years that were picking up XRP for some time. So the window of opportunity has been closing for years. But this is the final last month. This is the final month. Final last couple weeks even, before the XRP spot ETFs go live. Now, this is the BlackRock big unveil. Today they announced they are filing for a premium income ETF. See, and this is what I'm talking about. Just sit back, hold these assets, and let all of the service providers come to you. Not saying that you need to do a deal with BlackRock, not saying that you need to buy these ETFs. I'm talking about all the way from the completely decentralized offerings of yield like Flare to Doppler and the rest, to centralized offerings from Digital Wealth Partners, biggest hedge fund with XRP, nearing 100 million XRP in their hedge fund, right? Ahead of Doppler Finance, which I think just hit 75, 80 million XRP. And that might have actually been dollar amount. So let me, don't quote me exactly on that. And then you move over from there to the largest institutions and hedge funds in the world, which are also going to be providing you and servicing you for yield, etc. Once again, from Flare to Doppler to DWP to Axelar, MXRP, maybe 10%. Hello, how you doing? Let's see you perform. Let's see how it holds up. To Digital Wealth Partners, right? They've only reported 1 quarter of results so far. That was Q2. And so as we wrap up Q3, we'll let you know how DWP did in Q3. All the way over to BlackRock, which just announced a BlackRock Premium Income ETF. And I suspect, and I haven't looked all the way into this, but this is going to be an ETF that's going to derive income from probably staking, providing yield, etc. And so this is what I say. All you got to do is hold a big bag of XRP. That's the only missing variable, is you and your big bag of XRP and other good utility cryptos that we will be able to take loans against, that we will be able to earn yield on just for holding. We won't have to sell. You'll be able to earn yield. You'll be able to take loans. And all of these service providers, from centralized suits, largest asset managers in the world, BlackRock, all the way to completely decentralized offerings like Flare, they're all competing for our business. Best security, best yield, best results. All you got to do, and he who owns the gold, he or she who has the gold, makes the rules. So it's up to us to decide what we're going to be willing to put up with in regards to offerings of yield, offerings of service, etc. Now, this is a new interview that just happened and was dropping today. Nate Garassi, the ETF expert, he's the host of ETF Prime, co-founder of the ETF Institute, Crypto Prime podcast, and who was his guest? None other than Robbie Mitchnick, the man who showed Larry Fink the light when it came to cryptocurrencies and how they would transcend traditional currencies. And in this conversation, they discussed the massive success of their Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, the IBIT and the ETHA, Bitcoin and ETH and broader portfolio, staking and spot Ethereum ETFs, generic listing standards, crypto ETF development, tokenization, stablecoins. I want everybody to know, Robbie Mitchnick does come from Ripple. Most of you guys know that. For anybody new here, please understand that Robbie Mitchnick used to work at Ripple. And then he left to go to BlackRock and be head of digital assets at BlackRock. For those of you guys that have been watching Ripple for a while now, and for the new people here, we'll catch you up to speed. Ripple has been strategically placing former employees, executive staff, and board members in strategic positions around the world at the largest institutions in the world. And so what you're seeing right now is Robbie Mitchnick comes on this show, and I'm going to play the clip, very reserved in his comments, but I wanted to make a special note here that Nate Garassi, to hype up this podcast, right? To bring people in, to draw people in, to watch this podcast, does he lead with a clip on Bitcoin? Does he lead with a clip on Ethereum? Does he lead with a clip on anything else? No. XRP. You already know it. Because XRP has all of the eyeballs. It has all of the attention. It will continue to run this bull run. Everybody knows it. It's the dirty little secret between all the yappers and podcasters and YouTubers and everybody in between. Even the haters and the trolls. They have their little XRP moon bag just in case those crazy XRP guys are right. What do they always lead with? What do they clickbait with? XRP content. That's exactly what Nate Garassi did right here. Absolutely love to see it. Let's run the clip.
In terms of product development, let me ask you this, and you don't have to comment on the first part. And actually, I don't expect you to comment on the first part.
Probably won't then if you're prefacing it like that.
All right, so I have actually publicly predicted that BlackRock would file for a spot XRP ETF and a spot Solana ETF, which you have not yet done. And again, I'm not expecting you to comment on that at all. But what I will ask you is, how is BlackRock thinking about future product development around crypto-related ETFs? Because you have had these two massive success stories with IBIT and ETHA. So certainly that has to have your attention. But what about moving forward?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of factors that go into that decision-making process, obviously. But the biggest driver ultimately is our clients, right? What is the level of investor demand? What is the logic and investment thesis for investors and for our clients around these potential products? What problem are we solving for them? And so when we think about other potential opportunities in this space, obviously we're looking at things like market cap, liquidity, maturity, but also clarity of investment thesis and overall sort of product and portfolio considerations in terms of how clients long-term are going to be able to use products in this space, build the types of portfolio exposures holistically that they want. And so that's a constant evaluation process. It's not a fixed point in time thing, but ultimately that's the kind of process that we deploy.
So it all comes down to what their investors want exposure to. And it comes down to market cap, volume, some of the data points that he mentioned. Would one of those data points just happen to be a record-setting first ever contract to 1 billion in about 3 months open interest at the CME? Would this be one of the data points on top of the 4-month recap, the CME telling us that there was 18 billion of notional volume traded, with 6 billion XRP equivalent trading in 4 months at the CME? Is that the type of investor demand that BlackRock is looking for? Record-setting, fastest contract to ever hit 1 billion open interest at the CME? Can everybody still do 2 + 2 still equals 4 with me, please? Guys, it is done. The BlackRock ETF, it's done. It's going to happen. And what this data point, it's what I talked about in this morning's update. This shows you that institutional investors traded 6 billion equivalent XRP, 18 billion of open interest, notional value, fastest contract ever. Did we also break a record with the Rex Osprey Spot ETF? Would that be another data point that BlackRock is considering? The first service provider to bring a spot XRP ETF, sets the record for day one volume of any ETF launched in 2025. Record set. At the CME, about 3 months to 1 billion open interest, another record set. Best performing top 100 crypto since the election, XLM, XRP, HBAR. XRP right up there. And so we remind everybody at this moment, the classic clip, I'm going to play it again. I got his nice smile and grin right there, Larry Fink. They just can't talk about that spot XRP ETF, can they?
How about an XRP ETF? I know you got Ether out there. How about XRP? Can you answer that?
I can't. And you don't want me to.
I do.
Well, I can't.
All right. They're giving me the rap. Thank you,
Charlie.
How about an...
And this same institution is going to be sitting on stage of Ripple's Swell Conference November 4th and 5th in New York City, where Ripple's set up a new headquarters there themselves, right next to all the largest institutions in one of the financial market capitals of the world. Folks, the reason why I titled this episode here tonight, XRP ETF Rally, is because I need people to understand what happens next. Whether or not we get a big liquidation, black swan us, government shutdown us, World War III us, and we go down to some of these lower level, which the lowest support now would be 250, right? People would front run 250. I would front run 250. I have an order sitting at 271 right now. It didn't fill today. It almost did on my XRP long. I'm already in an XRP long again. That trade is down right now. It was up yesterday as we went up to $3, right? My average right now on this trade is about 287. So it was up yesterday. It's back down. I have an order sitting at 271. I have additional margin on the sideline so that I can buy the blood in the streets if it comes. Because whether or not we get that, I know what comes on the upside next, which is when you see at the CME billions of XRP equivalent in volume, 18 billion notional value, that tells me that we're going to see not just the 4 to 8 billion of inflows that Canary Capital CEO talked about first month, that, JP Morgan talked about first year. We're going to see 10 to 20 billion first year. That's what that tells me. The fact that there's that much interest at the CME is proof that the institutions can't wait to bet themselves on XRP along with sell it to their clients. You want to talk about setting records? The BlackRock Bitcoin ETF set the record for the fastest ETF ever to 10 billion assets under management. The Ethereum ETF was right behind it. Now, in my opinion, if BlackRock wants to have some fun, it would be very easy for them to launch the XRP spot ETF, and I believe that it would reach 10 billion assets under management faster than the Ethereum ETF. Now, mind you, Robbie Mitchnick with Susan Athey were the ones that put forward the valuation model while they were at Ripple. And it priced XRP anywhere from like 6 to 12. It wasn't a big valuation price. But at the time, it was when XRP was at, 20 cents, 30 cents. And they were saying that the fundamental value should be 6 to, double digits. And so it's impossible for BlackRock not to know how successful their spot ETF is going to be. See, not only that they're going to launch one, but how successful they know it's about to be as well, too. Because we're just watching data point after record set after record set. Now it's BlackRock's XRP turn to continue keeping 12.53 trillion assets under management. How do you do so? You give the people what you want, just like Robbie Mitchnick said. And so to finish my point and why I titled tonight's episode XRP ETF Rally, we might get a flush out. I can't tell you. We might get the flush out. We might get trade war. We just got more tariffs today. Apparently, we launched jets to track bombers in our airspace in Alaska. Russian bombers came in. Apparently, NATO's ready to shoot down any jets that invade our airspace. President Trump gave them the green light too. Apparently, we might get a government shutdown. I don't know when the aliens arrive, but that's on the docket as well too. I will be buying that dip. I will be buying all of these events because it's inevitable. The inflows are inevitable, and it's a double-digit price. Let's finish this off before we get to rapid-fire Q&A. Short term might get one more swoop low. The bears that have been calling for 250, they might get their moment. I don't see it going much lower. I don't see this being the end. And even if we do get a big black swan, even if we do get smacked up big time, it will be bought up. It will be temporary. And this is exactly how Wall Street plays before they send it the other way. This is exactly what the market makers do for a living, is squeeze us out, liquidate. I think I saw, 500 billion? How much was liquidated here today? Absolutely a massive amount. 500 million worth of crypto longs liquidated in the past 60 minutes. That was earlier today. 500 million. Now, the largest liquidation event of the year, that was earlier this week. That was 1.7 billion of liquidations in a 24-hour period. So the market makers are squeezing us out, finishing up this consolidation. We might get one more sweep low. I'll be buying the dip. Not here to tell anybody else what to do. I'm long XRP. I'm going to buy the dip. Not phased at all, because the inflows are inevitable. And just like I called for a buy the rumor, sell the news on the Fed interest rate cut, exactly how it's played out, I am once again calling for a buy the rumor, sell the news on the ETFs going live. And the timeline for that, I'm going to take you to the charts right now to show you, is October 17th, only about 3 weeks away. Zoomed out on the chart, you can see that our RSI has not been this oversold since June 22nd, right before we ran up 90% to our July all-time high. The last time that the RSI was down here, and it came all the way down to about 21, the last time that it was down here at this level was June 22nd, right as we were bottoming out at $1.94, and we pumped 90% to that new all-time high of 366. Here we are again. RSI reaches these oversold levels, and we're getting ready to make our move higher. A 90% move would take us right up above $5. Are we going to get that full 90%? I think that we fall short. I do think that we go up, you have resistance at 4, you have 440, 450, big psychological levels, Fibonacci levels right up there. So we probably fall short of $5 and we don't get that full 90% move above $5. But even, right, a rally up here to 450 is about 66%. And I could see XRP doing this with ease before that those ETFs go live in October. Now I'm going to take you back on the charts to what happened on the Bitcoin ETFs after they went live. This is important to understand. Here we are. Bitcoin ETFs go live January 11th, and then Bitcoin drops 21%. Okay. So after they went live, it dropped 21%. But look at what happened before. Bitcoin rallied 95% leading up to the ETFs going live. The fake news came out in October that the BlackRock ETF had been approved, and it kicked off this rally. And look at what happened to Bitcoin leading up to the ETFs going live. Buy the rumor, sell the news, 21% pullback. Was it done? No. Then it blasted off for another 90% up to a new all-time high of 74,000 2 months later. So from January 11th, it took about 12 days to bottom out. So after the ETFs go live, I would expect about 2 weeks or more of downside action before the ETF inflows really pick up. And then you're looking at another move for the XRP price chart. Same thing happened on Ethereum. Ethereum only ran up 25% leading up to their ETFs going live, and then it dropped by 40%. And then it did eventually. It took some time. The ETFs went live in July 22nd, and then it really didn't start to rally until November later that year. So it took months for Ethereum to really break out, and then it did about 70% move. 90% if you want to measure from this low. I guess we could go all the way. It ended up doing 90% again. So after the ETFs go live, Bitcoin did a 21% flush out, Ethereum did a 40% flush out, and then they both went up by another 90% from that low. So this is why I'm saying XRP ETF rally, it's going to come now. We might get one more liquidation event. We might get one more swipe low, and that would be max pain, max FUD, bull runs over, hang it up, capitulate. And you're already seeing that. Blockchain backer sold off a third of his cryptos. Peter Brandt, legendary trader, signing off of X. I know I've even talked to people, in private groups and one-on-one calls saying, yeah, I had to take a break. I had to take a break from crypto. This is when I buy. When I'm scrolling Twitter, when I'm looking across the feeds, when I'm reading my comments, and I see this level of capitulation from top crypto creators, this fear out here, the sentiment when it gets this negative, this is when I buy. Because once again, I showed you on the XRP chart, the RSI, the last time it was oversold was in June 22nd, the $1.94 lows, right before we did a 90% rally. So to me, XRP is about to break out. One more breakdown potential, but we're holding up really well right now at 270. I'm going to get you zoomed in on the chart right here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We're holding up really well here above 270. We did come back down. This volatility is so massive at this range that it just messes with people, because one day you could buy XRP at $3, the next day you're back down here to 270. And people are telling themselves, wow, in one day's time I could have bought, this many more XRP, right? They're pulling out the calculator and they're saying, dang, if I would have waited 24 hours, I would be able to pick up, right? So much more. Now, we had it marked out. And what happened is they did a fake out after we got the Fed interest rate cut. They let it run for just a little bit longer, up to 314 for XRP, and then they broke us down. So my call for buy the rumor, sell the news on the rate cut played out as good as it gets. I mean, nothing's going to be perfect down to the exact percentage or exact hour, but that margin is where you make up the difference. And this is where I sold off my XRP long position at 308, and then I've since bought back in at 287. Okay, so now here we are at 275 as I record this update. I want to be very clear for everybody. We could see one more back test, one more flush out down below this level of support that we have at 270. You have a fib at 258, according to Cassie Trades from what I saw yesterday on her chart. You have a big psychological level at 250. Anybody could tell you that. You have people like myself that are going to front run that level. This is what sophisticated traders do. And this is what you do. You just take what the market gives us. If the market makers have enough in liquidations to go take, they're going to do it. They're going to force it. And the reason why this is happening, before I get to your guys' rapid fire Q&A, it is Tether and all of the offshore exchanges that are allowing 100 to 500x leverage. That's why there's so much to liquidate. That's why the swings are so volatile and so dramatic. Because we have unregulated offshore exchanges that are allowing 500x leverage on crypto. And then we're surprised why we see 50% swings in the crypto space on a regular basis. When you introduce 100 to 500x leverage, with Tether being the main tool of manipulation, along with other stable coins and other exchange tokens that are used to manipulate, along with spoof trading, etc. There's a lot more tools, but those are just the main ones. That's what brings us down with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the rest of the market. The reason why we break free is the ETF inflows. But when we fall down, the days after the ETF goes live, and this just happened with the Rex Osprey ETF. He goes, oh, you said XRP was going to pump when the ETFs go live. I said, no, it's not that simple, right? There's a little context there to understand. We said buy the rumor, sell the news. After we get that sell off, after they go live, then you get a pump. And what we're seeing from the data, once again, not from my wishes, not from what I want you to believe, not from what you want to hear. What the data is telling us is that you have a double-digit XRP based off the inflows that we're going to see from the ETFs. Separate from digital asset treasury companies, institutional adoption, and then the big other one that's happening now is the yield wars. And all of the XRP that's being locked up in Flare, MXRP from Axelar. Here you have MXRP getting wrapped up and moved on over. You can now borrow against your MXRP. It's already here. You can supply MXRP as collateral on the EVM sidechain and borrow in XRP or stablecoins up to 75% LTV. More use cases and more opportunities for extra yield generation. MXRP is live on Strobe. They did an initial temporary security cap of 500,000. It sold out in an hour. Flare hit the 5 million XRP cap in 4 hours. More markets filled their cap. I forget how big it was in no time. Axlar has filled theirs in no time. All of these are selling out, from the little yield opportunities all the way up to, at the largest, basically one of the largest derivatives platforms in the world, the CME. Records are being set. The products are selling out. All eyes are on XRP. And that's what the message that I want to get across to everybody tonight, in the middle of a big pullback, in the middle of all this FUD, in the middle of all this capitulation, while other people are giving up, we are completely unfazed, because this data, to me, I can't say that it's irrefutable. It's just based off the data, the margin for error is a margin of, are we going to $10 or $30? The base case that I have for XRP in 2026 is $20 to $30. How fast we get there, I don't know. Are we going to see 5 billion inflows first month, and that's what takes us to $10-15? Very well could happen. Are we going to see over the course of the few months that the ETFs are live, we get 5 to 10 billion of inflows? We might even go $20 to $30. Over the course of that first year, could we get 10 to 20 billion inflows and go to even higher prices? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's start getting to your guys' comments and questions. I want to get to it right away. The one big variable to watch is, where will the ETFs get their XRP, right? And how is XRP going to manage, how is Ripple going to manage their XRP treasury going forward? They're the ones that control the lever. If you think of, comparing it to the Federal Reserve, right? If Ripple is the Federal Reserve of the XRP ledger ecosystem, because they get to control the monetary policy, they get to control the escrow and the treasury, it's up to Ripple to determine how big of a supply shock they want to see. What is Ripple's incentive? To see XRP at a much higher price and stabilized in a way where their institutional partners can use it for its intended utility safely. Now let's open it up. Okay, we got crybabies in the chat. That's the usual. Hey, guys, if you haven't already, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate you for stopping by. I appreciate your love and support. Yeah, Dennis says, Mitchnick investors waiting for clarity. Absolutely. Now, let me check it. Silver still above $45 per ounce. Absolutely love to see it. And XRP hanging out here at $275. Fantastic. All right, let's go rapid fire Q&A. Do I invest in Proton? No. I'd like to go rapid fire with it too, so just hit me with it. Let's go. Jay Claver's prediction was based on all ETFs going live. This is now unlikely. No, it's very likely. They'll all go live same day. The Rex Osprey did a Securities Act of 1940 workaround to be able to get their product to go live sooner. So you're still likely to see the half a dozen, or there's like 7 ETFs that are set to go live in October. Just like with Ethereum, just like with Bitcoin, they'll go live day one altogether. There was 11 Bitcoin ETFs that went live day one. So now you're still going to get all the ETFs going live. Yeah, Todd, thank you. Tonight, so I got a little scratchy throat, okay? So I'm hoping that we can beat it. I woke up in the middle of the night with a scratchy throat. My wife got it. We had a little something in the family go through us. And I thought that I had made it through. I was just telling somebody yesterday, oh yeah, family got sick. I'm rolling. I haven't felt anything. Then this morning, I wake up in the middle of the night with a scratchy throat. But I've been drinking honey and tea, lemon all day. Plus, I had soup, nice homemade chicken noodle soup from the wife. So she crushed it with that. We're rocking and rolling. And when you drink it out of the XRP mug, it hits a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? Take care of you. Zinc, yes. Yep. How much of the escrow will be needed for Ripple's bank charter? That's a good question. And that's the big last variable, right? As I mentioned, the big last variable in this XRP situation, which will determine how high XRP ends up going, is what's Ripple going to do with this XRP in the escrow? Are they going to continue distributions as they have been? That'll probably cause a supply shock because they're not distributing many XRP. They're distributing a couple 100 million each month. And we just saw 6 billion equivalent worth of XRP trading in 4 months at the CME. So once again, you don't have to be a math whiz to see what's in front of you. Once again, no clickbait, no crazy stuff, just data, just simple math. If Ripple's only releasing a couple 100 million, and it's not even going to the ETF issuers, it's going to institutional partners that are using it for other utilities, cross-border payments, treasury management, etc., derivatives, etc., right? Then, this could be even more dramatic. Right? If you have, in 4 months' time, 6 billion XRP getting traded, the equivalent of at the CME, when those ETFs go live, if we see billions of XRP equivalent being traded back and forth, where does it come from? Where does it come from? And a lot of retail would sell off to the institutions and, to Coinbase and other providers. As the price of XRP goes up to $5 and $10, a lot of retail does get shaken out of XRP. So if Ripple does tighten up the supply, there's really not that much XRP that does get sold, but there is some. Retail is going to sell some XRP. Some folks are going to sell XRP along the way. So there's some out there. The Coinbase cold wallets that we are watching, they've been completely drained from 900 million to 0. This doesn't include other wallets that they have. They still have some hot wallets. That's where your XRP is going to be held at, is in a Coinbase hot wallet. These cold wallets are where they keep extra supplies of XRP and other cryptos, but that's now gone. My speculation is that they're already supplying the ETF issuers because Coinbase is, the institutional custody provider for some of the ETFs already. So many people are asking me about Jake's prediction. Yeah. When does the Clarity Act get passed? By the end of the year. It looks like by the end of the year. We have a shutdown now that's pushing it off. Yeah. Zach Curtis says Zach selling his 1 billion XRP at $5. So there will be a lot of sell pressure there. Yeah. Yeah, I might give up a billy of my XRP. Yeah. And what I've been, just to be honest with you guys, right? And I've told you this already, but just to reiterate, the XRP that I'm planning on selling, like the bigger chunks, bigger relative to, a couple XRP that I might have on Coinbase. I don't have much XRP on Coinbase. I have a chunk on Uphold, and that was the chunk that I acquired during the lawsuit when Coinbase delisted and everybody else delisted. Qcoin kicked me off. I acquired my XRP on Uphold, and so I still have a bag on Uphold, but then recently I've been putting my XRP on Caleb and Brown. I set all my orders on Caleb and Brown, set it and forget it. And those bags of XRP I made from trading XRP meme coins. So it's not even part of my long-term holdings. I have to reiterate this again because people are getting so confused. 90% of my 100% of my XRP is held spot. No leverage, cold storage, and then I have a little bit on Uphold, and then a little bit in institutional grade custody on Caleb and Brown. And my orders are set over there. And if you guys are looking to get personalized brokerage service, you got bigger bags, Caleb and Brown is doing a great job servicing us right now. Every time I cash out, it lands in my bank account the next day. No problem. I'm still holding DAG. I've lowered my targets on DAG. I shared that with my Discord group. DAG is one where I did lower my targets, yes. Have I looked into XPR? Yes. It's a coin that is not being used by institutions. There's a little retail ecosystem that's thriving and doing well. There's just a bunch of liars who put out content about the token saying that they're working with institutions. That is not true. To the extent that they're hyping it up. Do they have a few random credit unions that did a stable coin or a pilot or playing around? Yes. They're credit unions that you've never heard of unless you're in the middle of Kentucky. Grant, I love me my credit unions. Okay, I bank at a credit union, a small one, locally. I also bank at one of the big banks as well too. I diversify amongst my banks, amongst my crypto wallets, amongst my crypto exchanges. I have a brokerage for trading crypto as well too, Caleb and Brown. And then after I get my self-directed IRA set up, I'll probably be putting that on iTrust Capital, of course. So I currently don't use iTrust Capital, but I will be as soon as I get my Roth IRA set up. And I wanted to mention that as well too. I'll be using KKOS Lawyers, that's Mark Kohler's law firm, to help me set up the backdoor Mega Roth. And they've got a structure that allows you to put more than the traditional amount that you are limited to in a Roth. They can do up to about 70,000 in this backdoor Mega Roth. Interesting structure. I recommend you guys get on a free call with them and then see if you can use them they can set up 401ks and stuff, but they also do estate planning. I just got back yesterday my first draft of my family's living trust that I've now created with my wife. So, and that was a service that was just shy of $4,000. So $4,000 for a revocable living trust. That's already been paid. I already met with my lawyer and I've just gotten back the first draft. And so I'm reviewing that right now as we speak. But they also can set up 401ks and self-directed Roth IRAs. Once I do so, then that would be one that I'd be looking to roll over and use at iTrust Capital. Yeah. Thoughts on XDC? Just need to see more institutional partnerships from XDC. They've been going to some conferences lately. I just would like to get an update on partnerships, institutional adoption. That's my big concern with them. Yeah, Dennis, backdoor Roth is great. Greatest invention ever. Proceeds are tax-free when you withdraw. Exactly. Yeah, so Roth IRA contribution limit for 2024 is 7,000. Same as in 2025. If you are under 50, it's 7,000, and it's 8,000 if you're 50 or older. So that's the problem. I wasn't in a rush here. I've talked to other financial advisors who, were potentially going to line me up with a Roth IRA, but if you make too much money, you can't create one. And then you're limited to only $7,000 per year. And so for me, I hadn't been in a rush to create one because of those limitations. I was over the income threshold and the limitation of 7,000 per year. I thought, well, I can't make too much of a difference with just $7,000 per year. So I'm just going to keep self-directing all of my investments like I do right now. But now that I found out about this backdoor Mega Roth that Mark Kohler's firm has structured, hell of a setup. He came about it structuring this up for oil men, guys in the oil field that were limited in how much they could self-direct through their IRAs, and they wanted to do more. And so anyways, Mark and his team, they explained this to us in the call that they did with us in August last month. They came in for an exclusive call with our Discord group, and he broke down this strategy along with some others as well too. So that's one thing that I'm exploring for either implementing it this year or next year. Caleb and Brown is bankruptcy remote. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've verified that with the team. Yep, Caleb & Brown is bankruptcy remote protected and institutional grade custody for free, no limits. So you don't have to, have $1 million to get that level of service. And then the other big thing with Caleb & Brown is that they just launched the Fort Lauderdale office. So they now have a physical location in the United States, and then they have the U.S. entity. So all U.S. clients are now under the U.S. entity, not the Australian entity. So they are now basically U.S. based for U.S. clients. The only thing that sucks about Caleb & Brown is that they're not available in New York, Canada, and UK. That's the only downfall of Caleb & Brown. Okay, looks like some super chats came in. Let me check out those. Thank you for reminding me of those. But yeah, if you guys want to get in touch with Mark Kohler's law firm, that's linked up down below, tax, legal, and estate planning. Hit that link. It'll take you to their Calendly, and you'll set up a free 15-minute consultation, and you could see they have a whole range of services, setting up entities, setting up trusts, etc. And a whole network of accountants across the country too. So if you need an accountant, CPA, they got you linked up there as well too. Yeah, would I be on Paul Barron's network? I'm going to be next week again for round 2. Yeah, I was on Paul's show a couple weeks ago. It was a big hit, big one, and we had a really great conversation. I really enjoyed it. It's nice flipping it. And I'm the one doing the interview. I'm the one sitting here doing all the talking and just prompting myself with your guys' prompts and questions as well too. But it was nice to sit down and have Paul interview me. That was a couple weeks ago. But I'll be back on his show next Monday, or we'll be at least recording it that Monday. And so it'll probably drop the day after that or something like that. So yeah, I'll be back on Paul's show next week. Shout out to Paul Barron. Okay, let's go check our super chats. Got a couple came in here. Landon, thank you. What do you think about Remitix? Is that an exchange? I think I have heard of them. Never used them. Probably crypto to fiat network. Yeah. Sure. Cross-border payments using crypto. Oh, they got a coin, RTX. They raised over 26.4 million. Yeah, no, I wouldn't care to use that personally. I wouldn't care. But yeah. $1970 Legend, thank you. Any chance that they will let the HBAR ETFs go live at the same time as the XRP ETFs? That is a great question, Legend. The problem is that we haven't seen 6 months of futures trading at the CME. That is one of the stipulations, standards that they want to see goals reached before they allow these ETFs to go live, is they want to see 6 months of futures trading at the CME or Coinbase. So this is the interesting, I don't know. To just answer the question directly, I don't know. I don't think they will. But the workaround now is, I believe that there is HBAR futures on Coinbase. So they're including Coinbase futures. So if you have futures for 6 months on Coinbase or the CME, that's what they're looking for. So HBAR might get in, but it's looking to me like it'll be Solana, XRP, and then many more of these basket ETFs. Now, there was one that went live today. It was the Hashdex Crypto Index, and that one includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and XLM, and like one or two others as well too. So there's a chance that HBAR and XLM get included in other basket ETFs, but as far as spot ETFs for XLM and HBAR, I think that we still might be out on that a little ways. Atlantic Living says a little birdie told Jake Claver HBAR ETF next week with Litecoin. Yeah, let me just check real quick. When did HBAR futures start on Coinbase? Coinbase files paperwork to list Solana and Hedera futures. This was February of this year. Yep. Here's the article right here. Solana and Hedera futures. Okay, so that's good news. So maybe we could. Now, right now, there's only one spot HBAR filing, though. And there's not any XLM spot ETFs. There might be two for HBAR. Canary Capital. Grayscale might do one too. Yeah, Grayscale did. Yeah, so you have Grayscale, and people are speculating about BlackRock, but that's not proven yet. But yeah, you have Canary Capital and Grayscale. So you have at least two HBAR ETFs, which I need that. That'll help take HBAR to my targets. That'll be nice. Yeah, that would be good. So that timeline on the ETFs for HBAR might have moved up. Let me see. Where did I want to go? I want to go right there. Salvador, thank you for the 5 spot. Thoughts on XLM and HBAR? Yeah, Thomas. I mean, I kind of just went over right there. ETFs. Don't know if they're going to be going live next month, but potentially you could get HBAR. There's no spot XLM ETFs right now. But they're updating the process, right? This standardized process that they've created, it's going to streamline the approval process for the ETFs. So basically, if you can go down and check off all the boxes, you're getting approved right away. So that's a big step forward for some of these other altcoins that are going to need ETFs to get them up to higher prices. Some of the targets that we've been looking at for XLM and HBAR, I don't think are going to be achieved just by retail. I think that you are going to need a little bit of juice from the ETFs. Yes, XLM was included in the ETF that went live today. Yep. But no spot, just spot XLM ETFs have been filed. Grayscale has their trust. That's for accredited investors, the XLM trust. They've had that for a long time. And they could roll that over to an ETF, but they haven't filed for that yet. But they could, and that's probably one that would get fast-tracked, I imagine. Chosen One Collecting says XRP fighting for its life in the charts. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, 275. I mean, yeah, we're hanging on here. This is decision time. Absolutely decision time. The triple tap. Now we're doing it a 4th time. I still think that we got a run. I still think that we got a heck of a run on the way. High Point XRP says, hey, Zach, once the ETFs start, how are the prices set? And do those listing the ETF set the price they're willing to sell to drive up the price? No, it is based off of the ratio of how many they're backing each share. So like the micro contracts on Coinbase are 500. So it's 500 XRP behind every contract. So if you buy one contract, it represents 500 XRP. The spot ETFs are going to work similar, where it'll be, one share of the ETF will equal 500 XRP. Now, it gets interesting. This could change and be amended down the road, because if XRP goes to very high dramatic prices and one contract represents 500 or 1,000 XRP, and you got XRP at 10, 20, 100, $1,000, amendments will be made, right? So that's what they'll be based off of. If you look at like the Grayscale Large Cap Fund, it is comprised of 5 different cryptos. It's got a percentage allocation towards each one, and it started trading at like $25 per share. If you look at the Rex Osprey ETF, that is, what is that? XRPR. It's at $2.70. No, what's it at right now? $22. Yeah. So the Rex Osprey here, $22 per share. And it started out as like a 60-40 backing, where it was like 60% XRP spot, 40% XRP options, and like 1% cash or something like that. So that's an Act 40 ETF, and it allows for the issuer to have a little bit more flexibility with what they back the ETF by. The more I learn about this financial service industry, the more I'm just blown away by how these guys have managed to package the same thing in 5,000 different ways. It's an incredible feat. Their ability to package up commodities, currencies, trading strategies in so many different ways. It's unbelievable. ZBCN, yeah. So it's going to be interesting because Uphold's hosting a space with ZBCN tomorrow. Simon McLaughlin, the CEO of Uphold, we had him on the show. Got to see him at Vegas again. Yeah, and really appreciate Simon. He's going to be having Simon from Zebek on. They're hosting a space tomorrow. ZBCN did break down over the past couple days. It had approached about 0.0036, I believe. So back down to the level of support that we had marked on our chart. I'll show you right now, just so you don't think I'm just pulling this out of nowhere. Right back to a level that we had marked off right here, 0.0035. Finding some support. So we'll see how Zebek performs here. Big space tomorrow with Simon McLaughlin and Simon from Zebek. That'll be a big one. Dennis, thank you. Understand this. Price drop is all Bitcoin trading induced. The charts show everything in lockstep with Bitcoin. XRP will not crash. All Bitcoin selling included. Yeah, so like I said, it's an interesting dynamic because a lot of the liquidations that are taking place and a lot of what's happening here is obviously taking place with XRP, but the level and scale is much bigger with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then many other cryptos that are very reliant upon that Tether pairing. Now, when you look at the currency pairings, Tether still is the biggest one for XRP, which is why we get hit with this. And because there still is a lot of people that trade futures on XRP. By the way, I just want to say that I've had a few emails come in, a few messages come in, this week of people telling me that they lost all of their XRP trading futures this past week. That breaks my heart and devastates me. And once again, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I do not give financial advice. I just tell you what I'm doing. And one thing that I've always said is that most of my XRP, actually 100% of my XRP, is held without leverage. I have taken extra cash that instead of taking to the casino, instead of playing around, this is investment capital that I have gathered to go trade. And if I get liquidated on those trades, my XRP is not touched ever. 100% of my XRP is owned without any leverage, without any loans, without anything. There are no claims, no counterparties other than the XRP that I have, a small bag on Coinbase, little bag on Uphold, and a bag that I have on Caleb and Brown, but they have bankruptcy remote protection. So 100% of my XRP is held without leverage, and a lot of it's held without any counterparty risk at all. And I got a couple messages and emails this week of people that got completely wiped out because they took their XRP and they went to these platforms that allow you to put up your XRP as collateral for your futures trading, and they got completely liquidated. Now, once again, I hold all of mine without leverage. When I do trade, I always explain how I always keep extra liquidity, always keep margin. If you think that you have $1,000 to go trade with, you don't. Not if you're going to trade how I do. The way that I would trade if I had $1,000 is I'm going in with not more than probably 80% of that, $800. You got $10,000 to go trade? No, you don't. No, you don't. You know, you start, I ladder in probably half. Going with half, or I like to split it up in thirds. Okay. And then I always keep extra liquidity on the sidelines. It's just like you save for a rainy day, right? It's what any responsible person would do when it comes to your finances, is you're going to have a little bit in savings for a rainy day. When it comes to trading, keep a little bit in your margin for a rainy day. These market makers are out to hunt you, and you're trading against the crypto cabal that has many tools of manipulation at their disposal. This game is rigged. I know this, and I'm still stupid enough to go do it. But I have very specific strategies that have been effective for me. 9 out of 10 traders do lose, and I do not advocate for trading for 9 out of 10 people. Look at this guy show up. Look at this guy pull up here. 1970 legend drops a big hundo. Buy your son in the oven his first 2 ounces of silver. Tell him they are from Uncle Legend. I love that, brother. Hey, I better go buy it quick because silver is looking to break above $50 per ounce, huh? For those of you guys who don't know, I announced it on Saturday. We have been a few months now into another pregnancy. My wife is carrying another one for us, and we do know that it is a boy. So we are absolutely blessed with another child on the way, due in March. So what you will see from me is a sprint. Okay. Not only have I already been on a sprint to finish off this year in this bull run, but now we get to be on another sprint before baby number 3 arrives. Okay. And, you know, depending on how high XRP goes will determine how many babies we end up having, huh? The XRP family, it's not just a meme. It's not just a joke. It's not just the community. It's how we live life. We're trying to make as many XRP babies as possible. Well, no, we're feeling very thankful, very blessed. And I already have a boy and a girl, so I didn't care either way which one I had. You know, either way. But excited to have another little guy running around with us. But I'll go get him 2 ounces of silver before silver breaks above $50 per ounce, Legend. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. Christy says, I remember Zach in a live with a 1-week-old baby, so cute. That was back in the day, wasn't it? Little baby, rocking my little girl to sleep. I would bring her little, she had her little bouncer chair that she would take her naps in. And so she'd be hanging out with me. We'd do a little live show. Daddy's voice would put her to sleep. I don't know if it was my voice or I was just that boring. A combination of the two. Put her to sleep every time. Yeah. Absolutely blessed. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Curtis, there you go. Got a daughter coming in 4 weeks. There you go. That's how it's done, guys. Keep growing that XRP family. I'm proud of you guys out there getting it done. Eclipse, thank you for the 10 spot. Hey, are you planning to look into Ripple's upcoming first of the month release to see if they're doing any buybacks, or are they just going to leave the full billion tokens out there as usual? Great question, Eclipse. It's exactly what I'm looking at. It is the big variable. Ripple controls the lever. They have the monetary policy of XRP supply in their hands. They decide. They determine how much XRP is going to come out, how much they're going to put back. Now, I should say this. They don't decide how much comes out from the escrow. 1 billion gets released every month, but they've continuously been returning 700 to 800 million of it back to the escrow where it gets locked up once again. Okay? So going forward, what I will be watching is how they manage those flows and distributions going forward, and where does the XRP for the ETFs come from? Those are the two big variables that I'm watching to see how aggressive this XRP ETF rally is going to be. Great question. Thank you. We got another chat here from Chris Cooper. Zach, should I file a claim with Link2 before John Deaton sends his email in October? Great question. I cannot give you any legal advice on this matter, which is just so unfortunate. I would only say that you need legal expertise with you, because this is a very dynamic situation where you have a vote that's about to take place between a liquidation trust and a closed-end fund. Now, at the closed-end fund, everything gets packaged up in a closed-end fund that goes public. Now, this would allow the non-accredited investors to have exposure to it. But what would happen, say that you invested in Ripple stock, well, now you're going to have invested in Ripple, Circle, and 12 other companies that they had on their platform. You'll have you'll have whatever your representative shares, your claim of the fund, and that closed-end fund will own all of the equity. So that's the option with the closed-end fund. And you could see why maybe some people might want to go that way. For example, imagine you only invested in PolySign. Some people, and I'm not saying to do this, but some people who have a complete write-off and loss with PolySign might vote for a closed-end fund, because then their equity that is at zero, effectively, they would be able to actually get a claim of the closed-end fund and get access to the other winners. Now, is that right or wrong? I'm not here to say. To me, that's not right. I just said I'm not going to say. I am going to say. That's not right. You invested in PolySign. It was an unfortunate situation, but it's not up to me. It's going to be up to the shareholders of Link2, the investors, and those part of the bankruptcy process. They're all going to vote on it. Liquidation trust, which would be a very long process with the liquidation trust. The closed-end fund, I think, would be faster. I'm not sure if that's exactly correct information, so please, you have to look into that for yourself. John Dean did say, though, that he would make a public filing, a template. Basically, he would just share, if he does file a claim, he will share it publicly for everybody to use as a template. So John Dean did say that. There are other people that are taking different approaches. You need to consult with a legal professional. Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if Mark Kohler's law firm has ever gotten involved in any of that. Like I said, that's who I've started working with for my estate planning, and they're setting up a couple other entities for me as well too. But I mean, what I've come to learn is that you need lawyers that have expertise in the subject matter, right? Just like you go to a doctor, I'm going to get my heart fixed, right, in a couple months. I don't go to a head doctor to go get my heart fixed, right? Just like when it comes to this type of situation, you're going to want to get good legal advice from somebody who knows and is up to date on these matters. And if you don't ask, you don't get. So I wouldn't sell yourself short if you do file a claim. I would take your claim and I would look at the highest price that these assets have been at. There's word on the street that Ripple equity is being offered. People are trying to buy it at $250 per share. I think that there even was a Ripple tender offer that just went out for $250 per share. A bunch of people are trying to offer you 70% on your claims, so you're getting letters in the mail. If you need immediate cash, that could be a solution, but you are selling yourself short of what the real equity is worth. So if you don't ask, you don't get. It's just like when we were working on the red folder and the valuations for XRP. You start with the high numbers, let them work you back down. Little art of the deal. Zach, started my silver journey at $14. Wow. There you go. Is this guy Chris Pratt's crypto brother? Yeah. Yeah. I've had some people say that. I need to get a little bit bigger, though, if we're going to make that comparison. I think I might be a little... You know what's interesting? They make a lot of these guys look bigger on TV. They make a lot of these guys look way bigger on the screen. It's like all the YouTubers and podcasters, I swear. That I get to meet them in real life. They look a little bit bigger behind the camera. Yep. That's okay. But yeah, Chris, I hope that everything works out with the Link 2 situation. You guys can get your shares back. I think that it will come to a resolution where people will get at least cash or equity back in some form. You're going to get something back. Some people are probably going to get the short end of the stick. So I'm going to look to provide a full update on it after I gather a few more things. I'm going to be doing a little bit more research on it over the weekend, and I'll let you guys know what the full scoop is on Link 2 after that. Okay? Yeah. Yep. Bruce asks, what about holding on Caleb and Brown? Yeah, I'm holding some XRP on Caleb and Brown. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a nice place to have some. Let me refresh our chat. Okay. Rob, good to see you again. Zach, it was a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you for all the great info. God bless you and your family. Rob, it was my pleasure to meet you. Absolute pleasure to connect with you. And I'm excited to follow up with you on the rest of your investing journey. Great stuff, my friend. And for any of you guys who are wondering, Rob and myself, we did a little one-on-one call earlier today. And if you guys are looking to book a call with me, just head on over to my website, and we've made it very easy to find. Right at the top of the website, there's a one-on-one tab. So you don't even have to go to the community resources. There's just a one-on-one tab. You click that, and then you can schedule, find my Calendly, book a call with me. And that calendar has been filling up too. So I'd encourage you guys to hop on there before we get heated up again. Because it always comes to ebbs and flows. And so like right now it's cooled off a little bit while the market's down. But then as soon as that market starts to rip back up, then my calendar gets full. And I really wasn't that available over the past 3 weeks on my road trip and some of the other business that I was doing. So, just take advantage of that while you can. Once again, that's at my website, zachrector.com, linked up down below. Okay. But yeah, thank you, Rob. Absolute pleasure meeting you today. Hopefully we get to meet you in person sometime here. Thank you for your support, my friend. Altus Plateau, will shadow pools, dark pools continue when we have regulations clarity? Yes. Yep, because excuse me, all we're talking about is OTC desks, over the counter, and that is, very prevalent, very legal. That's where institutions are going to go trade at. Okay. Now, you still get an impact on XRP's price and other cryptos when you can see and observe on chain where the flows of XRP are going, right? And so I know when we've talked in the past, right, a big reason why XRP hadn't increased in price is because all of the accumulation by these institutions has been happening OTC. But if that supply is constrained, once again, Ripple controls that lever, and there's only so much XRP to go around, right? This is when you start to see that supply-demand dynamic change, and XRP is going to start to move up, despite those institutions buying over the counter, right? There's only so much to be traded OTC. There's only so much in retail. There's only so much to go into ETFs. There's billions that are going to be locked up in a bunch of yield opportunities. So this is where you get that supply shock scenario playing out, despite the fact that the OTC pools will continue, which is what dark pools and what we call them here? Shadow pools, dark pools, OTC. Yeah, these institutions are always going to have a place like that to acquire. Yeah. Mugs Mill, thank you for the super chat. We use Wealthsimple in Canada. Do we still need to wait on Caleb and Brown? I've heard good things about Wealthsimple, so that's good. I'm glad to hear that the Canadians have at least, one or two good providers up there. I've talked to a lot of people that use Wealthsimple. That's great. I don't know how they compare to Caleb and Brown. My thing is never rely on one. I don't rely on one bank account. I don't rely on one stream of income. I don't rely on one crypto exchange, one brokerage platform. Like I said, I use different lawyers for different things, So if you can get other options, I always like to have options. Always. Okay. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap up this call here. I actually was only planning on going for about an hour, went a little bit over just because I enjoyed talking to you guys so much. Thank you so much for stopping by here. All of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. Once again, the most recent partner of the channel that we've added is iTrust Capital. They are linked up at the top of the description. Use my promo code RECTOR9 when you sign up with them, and you'll get that additional $100 funding bonus. And they now have that premium custody account. If you're just looking to buy and sell crypto, trade over there, they can do that for you. Institutional grade custody, 1% fee. And then they also have that traditional Roth IRA and SEP IRA accounts as well too. So if you have a 401k IRA, you don't have to wait around for Trump's executive order. iTrust Capital has already been working and providing, and very excited too that they offer precious metals as well for your 401k. So that's linked up down below. Promo code is RECTOR9. Get $100 extra funding fee, funding bonus, I should say. And all of the other community resources are available at zachrector.com, including the merch, including the Patreon. I've also linked up down below the new trading lesson that I did drop. So if you are looking to learn the basics of how to self-direct your investments and manage your portfolio using futures to hedge or leverage your positions, that is what I'm breaking down in the most recent trading lesson, perpetual swaps versus dated futures. The other trading lesson that we did was the basics of futures 101. So in tandem, those two cover the basics, and we're just getting started with putting out our trading lessons along with some of our other tactical wealth lessons as well. But you get full access when you're in the Discord. Get tapped in. It's all at zachrector.com. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless you all, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay? Thank you.